Good morning. Welcome to the Community Calendar. I'm Jazze, and today my guest is the Senior Manager of External Affairs with ViiV Healthcare. I have PJ Moton-Poole on the line with me. Good morning.
Good morning, Jazze. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I am doing so great. I understand you have this wonderful initiative happening. It's called With Love. It's down in Deep Ellum, 2700 Swiss, and it's going on until July 1st. So tell me about this ongoing initiative that you have.
Yes, absolutely. So With Love is ViiV Healthcare's love letter to community. It showcases some of our what we call cultural initiatives. And what that really focuses on is reducing HIV stigma and engaging communities around HIV prevention and care. It features several of our culturally based programs, including Me and You and Me, which is our prevention program, Accelerate, which is our program for Black men, Risk to Reasons, which is our program for Black women, as well as Love and Gravity, which is our program for Latinx, gay, bisexual, and queer men.
Does it cost anything to come out to this?
No, it is absolutely free to everyone, and you register on site. It's open 12 to 5 p.m. every day to the general public, and then we have specific programming that we have and we host in the evening, in which we partner with local organizations that serve these communities around HIV prevention and care, and they're able to kind of bring their own audiences to the space. But 12 to 5 p.m. every day, it is open and free to the public.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, if they want to get more information on that, what's that website?
If you want to get more information, you can simply Google ViiV With Love, and that'll take you to our Eventbrite landing page. We just have a landing page where it just kind of gives you all of the information on what's happening with the exhibit. But then we also have some links on there that kind of lead to some of our other work that's posted on the ViiV website.
TJ, I'm really glad that you guys are doing this campaign because National HIV Awareness Day is coming up, and in Dallas community, we do have high rates of infection. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit more just about HIV and AIDS and some of the symptoms and stigmas surrounding that. If you could just tell me, how can people get HIV/AIDS?
Well, I think it's important first to know that one of the reasons why we chose Dallas is because Dallas is number 12 in the U.S. for new HIV infections. And about half of those people, what we've learned is about half of those people who receive an HIV diagnosis are not being connected to care. And what's important to know is that for Black and Brown communities, primarily, it's stigma, really, that is the silent killer. It's stigma that's the thing that kind of like that pushes new infections, and it's the thing that we're really battling against the most. And so HIV can be contracted only through 4 bodily fluids. That's blood, semen, breast milk, and vaginal secretions. That's the only way in which HIV can be transmitted. But it's also important to know that those who are living with HIV and are taking their medicines as prescribed can reach a level of what we call undetectable, and that's in which the virus lives in their body, but they cannot transmit it to others. And it's these levels of information and these nuances around that information that we really want to share with community in an affirming way, in a way that is not scary, right? So that we can ensure that people have the knowledge that they need, have the information that they need to connect to care and resources, and be able to live better, full, and whole lives.
I'm really glad that you spoke about how it's transmitted. I did an interview with a woman recently who has been living with HIV for, I believe, over 20 years. And she was dating a guy, and he knew he was infected and did not tell her. And so how important is it to get tested before you have intercourse or relations with a new person?
I think it's important to not even just get tested before you have relations with a new partner, but just to make testing a regular part of your own health and sexual health and wellness. What we recommend is that depending on your sexual experiences, that you get tested every 3 to 6 months. And even for those who are living with HIV, we recommend that you get tested pretty regularly for sexually transmitted infections that, outside of HIV. And so I think that one of the things that we're really trying to promote is to make these conversations around testing and around HIV just a regular part of our lives, just the same way that we would go get tested for diabetes, the same way that we would go get tested for our blood pressure, the same way that we would go and do any type of health screening. And I think that as we normalize that, as we normalize making HIV testing and STI testing a regular part of our lives, then it becomes less of a stigma. It becomes less of a thing that is that other thing that is big and scary. And so that's what I think that With Love is really talking all about. It's talking about the things outside of just the virus in the body. It's talking about how we empower one another. It's talking about how we see ourselves. It's talking about how we build community. It's talking about how we are envisioning our individual and collective future. And those are the things that really drive us to make the decisions that we need to make to live long, full, and healthier lives.
If you're just now tuning in, I'm speaking with the Senior Manager of External Affairs with ViiV Healthcare PJ Moton-Poole, and we're talking about a campaign that they have. It's called With Love, that's happening at Deep Ellum, 2700 Swiss in Dallas, and it's going on until July 1st from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., and we're talking about HIV and AIDS. And as you were speaking before, I was talking with the lady, and although she had gotten HIV/AIDS as a young woman, she was still able to have 3 children who are not HIV positive and continue to live her life. Like I said, 20 years later, I would have not known that she had HIV had she not told me. So living with HIV is not a death sentence. So how important is it for people to get in treatment and know their treatment options once they find out that they have HIV?
Yeah, absolutely. So this kind of goes back to what I shared about being undetectable. Once an individual receives an HIV diagnosis and gets on their medicine and takes their medicine as prescribed by their physician, they can reach what we call undetectability. And that is where there's not enough of the virus in their body for them to pass it sexually. And so essentially, it's always kind of like to liken it to sickle cell. You know, sickle cell is something that you have that you can't pass. And so HIV starts to kind of really exist in kind of that dormant phase where, you know, you aren't able to pass it to your partner sexually. And I think that, you know, you brought up a really important point around individuals learning of their status and not in being afraid to go get tested or whatever the case. And it's really just that stigma around HIV for so long. You know, we have seen HIV kind of as a death sentence because of what we saw in the 80s, because of kind of how we see people talk about it. And HIV really doesn't have a face, right? It primarily impacts gay and bisexual, Latinx, and Black men. But however, you know, Black women are the number 2 in Texas population that are receiving a higher diagnosis of new infections. And so it's really important to just recognize that it's a communal thing and it's not an individual thing. And With Love really highlights the idea around that communal responsibility as it relates to making sure that HIV is something that is manageable, is something that is controlled within our communities, and something that people can live with without limiting their life and their ability to live full and whole lives.
What are some of the stigmas that surround, because that really bothered her, which is that you can't come to my house and drink out of a cup, or you can't go to the bathroom. And can we debunk some of those stigmas right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned before, HIV can only be transmitted through bodily fluids, and that's blood, semen, vaginal secretions, and breast milk. So if you're not passing any of those fluids onto anybody, and of course you can't come in contact with any of those on a toilet seat or, you know, drinking out of a cup or using utensils or anything like that. So you have nothing to worry about. And then in addition, again, even with a person who's living with HIV who is undetectable, they are then essentially unable to pass it even through those mechanisms. And so I think that it's important for folks to know that, you know, kissing someone, hugging someone, being in close proximity to someone is not a way that, you know, you can pass HIV. And so I think that that's one of the major things that we need to really talk about, is really educating our community as a whole on just kind of the basics around HIV. But then aside from that, it's just like really educating folks around like HIV has no face, right? And it's impacting us as a community. And that, you know, I think one of the things that I always like to talk about is like sometimes we navigate this world as independent beings, but we're not single cell or independent beings. We are interdependent. So we all depend on each other to kind of live the lives that we have. We have families, we have partners, we have coworker relationships. And so I think that if we look at, you know, things like HIV as something that is more communal, that is a communal responsibility, then we find ourselves being able to get to solutions that protect all of us, more fast than we would trying to navigate things as independent beings.
So what exactly is the mission of ViiV Healthcare? Is it to spread awareness, or do you actually also provide care as well?
So we don't provide care, but ViiV Healthcare is the only pharmaceutical company that is solely focused on HIV as a disease state. So although we do produce HIV medicines, what we talk about in our work on my side of things is everything outside of medicine. So like, how are people feeling about themselves? What information do they need? What organizations locally are there available for people to get connected to care? So we support those organizations through our grant-making entities that support individuals living with or impacted by HIV, but we don't actually do those services ourselves. And then we do other things like the cultural work that we're talking about with Love, where we go into communities and provide something that is reflective of the people that live in those communities, where they feel empowered to make the decisions that they need to make to optimize their personal sexual health.
I see. You know, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I think we need to kind of continue these conversations, but it's really good that you're having the With Love campaign until July 1st. Again, it is at 2700 Swiss in Dallas, which is the Deep Ellum neighborhood. And so one more time, if people are interested in coming out throughout this time frame, what can they expect to see when they decide to come out? And this is open for people living with HIV and people who aren't, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely actually important for people living with and those impacted by and those in proximity to folks living with and everybody, really. As long as you are and this is even more prevalent for Black men, Latino men, and for Black women, because it's really reflective of the fullness of their lives and experiences. So it's really for everybody. It becomes like either a window for you to look into the lives of others, or it becomes a mirror for you to look into aspects of your own life and community and discover more. So as you enter into the space, you're given a bag with some materials in it and a card to help guide you through the experience. And so it's actually an immersive, interactive exhibit. And so you have different things that you engage with throughout the exhibit that allow you to do some self-reflection. It's really based in three pillars. It's about creating and exploring your own narrative. It's about creating and exploring the current community that you have and the extended community. And it's about creating and exploring your independent and collective future. And so you get to see all of this amazing imagery and sounds and different engagements that you get to kind of interact with that really help you to understand the importance of looking at this as more than just an individualized thing and looking at it as more of a communal thing, and recognizing that it's going to take networks of support, whether that be your friends, your family, or whoever exists in your network of support to help you to navigate, life and empower you to make the decisions that you need to make to optimize your personal and sexual health.
Perfect. And if anybody want more details, where can they go get more information?
Yes, if you Google ViiV with Love, you'll see, it'll take you to our Eventbrite page. That's a landing page that gives you all of the information on where the exhibit is and how long it'll be there. It also gives you more information on some of our specific programming that we're doing with local organizations here. And then it also has links on that page that leads you back to our ViiV Healthcare web pages that has more information around some of our other cultural initiatives, and including some of the ones that feature some of our very own community members here in Dallas.
Oh, that's fantastic. And when you say ViiV, it sounds like it's VEEV, but it's actually ViiV.
Yeah, but it's ViiV.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to clarify that for those who are listening. All right. Thank you so much, TJ. I really appreciate this conversation.
Absolutely, Jazze. Thank you. And I hope that you get an opportunity to come down and visit it as well.
Yes. I will definitely come down.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.